This morning, an entire school district in a small town in West Texas is under quarantine, and the local hospital does not have ICU care available. If residents need ICU-type care, the closest trauma centers are about 100 miles away. Rosa Flores has the latest.
In the small oil field town of Iraan in West Texas.
Oh, we'll check it out and see.
Just about everyone passes by Nancy Beck's barbecue joint. But recently, most of the traffic stopped.
It was quiet. You know, the lady across the street, she has it. She's been flown out. She's in ICU.
In the span of 2 weeks this month, 119 people got tested for COVID at Iraan General Hospital, and 50 tested positive, a 42% positivity rate.
So this is Carla's desk.
Vicky Zapata says her co-worker Carla Valderas and Carla's husband Sammy both got infected.
Because this is somebody that I love so much. I know her love for her husband. I tell her, I knew I loved you, but I didn't know how much I loved you until you went through this.
Sammy got sick first, Vicky says, and in a matter of days had trouble breathing and was hospitalized. Carla quarantined at home with her 9-year-old son as her fever spiked, says Vicky.
It breaks my heart that I can't, open the door and hug her. We believe in healing in the name of Jesus.
Vicky organized a community prayer outside the couple's home and streamed it live.
It was a cry of mercy to God, for him to have mercy on our town. Like I said, we had COVID before, but never to this magnitude.
Town residents followed along from their cars to be COVID safe.
In the name of Jesus, we declare healing over Sammy, over his lungs, Father.
But Sammy's condition deteriorated. Iraan General Hospital doesn't offer ICU care. Vicky says she started praying for an ICU bed to free up.
That was hard, but we know that our facility doesn't have the capability to be able to take care of him.
When a bed opened up, Sammy was rolled out on a stretcher and airlifted about 100 miles away to San Angelo, Texas.
Oh, fight for your life. Fight for your life. We love you. We love you.
We love you, Sammy!
At least one Iraan resident has been airlifted out of state for care because of the lack of available ICU beds in Texas. No one here knows exactly how the outbreak started. Last week, the school district shut down after about a quarter of staff and about 16% of the students got infected or exposed to the virus, says the superintendent there, who is also quarantining.
In the last week, we've seen more COVID cases for staff and students than we did the entire year last year during school.
The beloved football season is postponed. Homecoming hangs in the balance.
City Council.
And city council members met over a conference call.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
To close the city building to residents.
How concerned are you?
Very. To me, it's pretty serious.
With so many people in quarantine, Iraan is quieter than normal, especially now as the town begins to mourn. Sammy died just 5 days after an ICU bed became available.
It's just horrible. It's just horrible. And we're going to miss him so bad. We're going to miss Sammy so bad.
Nancy, like everyone else here, just wants this COVID outbreak to end so this little Texas town can get back to its big old self.
According to the superintendent there, she says that there was no mask mandate at the school because of Governor Greg Abbott's executive order on masks, which bans mask mandates. And Brianna, I can tell you from talking to people in that town, they say that there was division about wearing masks before this outbreak, with some people wanting masks, others not wearing masks. Now they say it doesn't matter. They have to come together because of what's going on there. And they're saying, learn from what is happening here so it doesn't happen across the state, across this country.
The Texas Attorney General, he's suing the San Antonio Independent School District over its decision to require vaccinations for all members of staff. The district is believed to be the first in the state to require vaccines. Staff members have until October 15th to get the shots. Attorney General Ken Paxton, a Republican, says Superintendent Pedro Martinez is deliberately violating state law. Superintendent Martinez joins me now. Thank you for taking the time this morning.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
So Governor Abbott's order says, I'm quoting from it, no governmental entity can compel any individual to receive a COVID-19 vaccine administered under an emergency use authorization. Now we have the FDA giving full approval to the Pfizer vaccine. Does that change the legal calculus here at all for you?
You know, for me, it was never a political decision, Jim.
Yeah.
We've been open in our schools for 2 weeks. We had a mask requirement as well as now a vaccine mandate. We were anticipating that we would get FDA approval for the Pfizer drug, which is what our children and staff have mainly gotten. But we have to be leaders. We have to lead by example. And I applaud all of my colleagues that all of us are fighting together on making sure that our children are safe. But we have to look ahead. And I believe that we need to have our children and our staff vaccinated if we're going to have a successful year this year.
I mean, you note the politics, and the fact is the politics have been part of this from the beginning. It is Republican governors, in Florida and in Texas who are attempting to block these kinds of mandates, even though in the past they often argued for choice in districts, right? Let the districts kind of run themselves. What do you say to politicians who do that, particularly as what's happening in Texas right now, as you have a spike, a surge in new COVID infections?
Jim, our positivity rate here in San Antonio hit over 20% last week. We have COVID testing in all of our schools. Our positivity rate is hovering about 2%. Last year, we never went above 1%. I'm worried because more and more hospitals are reporting children being hospitalized. My parents trust us. My staff trust us. We want to maintain that trust. In order to keep our children safe and to have stability in our classrooms, we need to make sure our federal and state leaders are doing everything possible. This is not a time for politics. This is about making sure that we have a strong academic year and that our children are safe.
So if the Texas Supreme Court, in the next legal step here, upholds the ban, will you comply, or will you kind of dare them, in effect, and continue to require vaccines?
I have full support, Jim, of both my community and my board and my staff. We're going to do what's right for our children. And again, we'll let lawyers deal with the legal ramifications. We're going to keep our children safe, and we're going to make sure our classrooms are stable. It's what I owe my parents. It's what my community expects from us.
Setting aside the politics for the moment, what do you hear from staff that you're now requiring to get the vaccine? I mean, the rate is about 90% already that most teachers have, but you do have this holdout group. How are they responding to the mandate?
We're not receiving any pushback, Jim, because, again, they want to by example. And Jim, we need to look ahead. Right now, we are requiring our staff to be vaccinated. We're the first district in Texas to do that. And eventually, we need to make sure that our children are vaccinated. We'll use positive incentives right now, but I've already told my community, if I have to, I will start requiring vaccines for our children as well, because we need to keep our children safe. We need to have stability in our classrooms.
Given the FDA news today giving full approval for this, and there's a lot of talk about, and the Surgeon General has said this, that institutions, private companies, et cetera, we know the military is about to require it for service members. Does this, in your view, full approval, could that move the debate in a positive direction in Texas and allow more freedom to districts like yours?
I'm hopeful that it will, Jim, but I think no matter what, I mean, we have been expecting full approval for weeks now. 90% of my staff, we estimate, has already received the vaccine. We know it's safe. We're pushing, we're encouraging our families to have our children get vaccinated. We have vaccine clinics in all of our large high schools. We're making it accessible and easy for our families. I know that some of our families are worried, so we're partnering with our health partners to give them information so they can answer their questions. But right now, Jim, it is important that we all look ahead. We're not going to have a successful academic year unless we get our staff and children vaccinated. It's just that simple.
Yeah, that's the worry, right? Because you don't want to have going back to remote schooling. I know parents wouldn't like that. Pedro Martinez, thanks so much for the work you're doing.
Thank you, sir.